Good morning, all of you. So, as we come to know that the one more chapter in chemistry for term 1 board examination, that is metals and non-metals. So now, this is not actually a new chapter. I think when you are in class 8, most of you, I have only taught you what is the metals and non-metals. Is it yes? So almost same thing. Class 8, whatever you have been studied regarding metals and non-metals, like physical properties, chemical properties, what is the difference between the metals and non-metals, what is the exceptional case, like in the sense of, for example, all the metals are malleable in nature except some metals. All the non-metals are non-malleable in nature except some, like some exceptional cases will be there. So except that, remaining most of the things will follow the same thing like what we have been studied in the class 8, but additional information will be added. So in this chapter, extraction of metals and refining of metals has been deleted. You may be noticed it. Correct? I have already told you that. So till what is the physical properties of metal, next what is the chemical properties of non-metals, physical properties of metals and non-metals, as well as chemical properties of metals and non-metals. That is what we are going to discuss in this chapter. Now, let us discuss what is first metals and non-metals and how many metals are there and what is the total number of elements present, and this all the things. Even I only taught you. I think some of you already remember this. Is it yes, guys? Yes or no?
Sir.
Yes. So now let us see. Once again, we'll start. This is the most important chapter where the number of questions having a possibility means they will ask you number of different kind of questions more, because each and everything is a chemical reaction. So we should remember, and as well as what is the difference between this chemical reaction to next chemical reaction. Here only we are having a link with the first chapter. So first chapter, even though there is no importance of metal activity series, even though I have taught you that. Do you remember the metal activity series which I have been taught in the chapter 1? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
We use
Yes, sir.
metal activity series we will use to which reactions? For displacement reactions alone. Is it yes or no? Respond me.
Yes, sir.
The same displacement, the same metal activity series which I have been in first chapter for displacement reactions. So here the full chapter has been running just behind the metal activity series. So without metal activity series, we cannot do anything here. First, we should go to metal activity series, then only we should come back to write the any chemical property of metals. So now let us start with the beginning. So what is metals and non-metals and how it is going to be happen and all we will discuss. Please, all of you, keep heading metals and non-metals. What is that? Metals and non-metals. So, I think this is the chapter number 3. Is it correct? Your textbook also? Is it yes, guys?
Sir.
Yes. So, chapter 3, metals and non-metals. All of you keep heading metals and non-metals. What is the date today? So as we know that you people already know how many elements are there at present till now. Till today, how many elements are there? Anybody? You know or don't know? Respond me. How many elements are there till now in the periodic table? You have been already studied, correct? So there are around 118 chemical elements known at present. So till now we people came to know about 118 elements. Very good, Bhumika. So Bhumika is only the one who is remembering my class from the classic. So let us discuss here. There are around 118 chemical elements known at present, but if you'll observe these elements, all the elements is having Understand? There are some similarities as well as some differences in the properties of these elements. So some elements is having some similar properties, some other elements is having some other similar properties, but there some also they are having some differences. Now in this chapter we will study what is the similarities between the elements, what is the dissimilarities, or we can say differences in the properties of the elements. So on what basis we can say, like on the basis of their properties, all the elements can be divided into two main groups. So what is that main groups? One more group is there, that is called as metalloids. But here we are not all discussing about the metalloids, only the chapter related to water. Everybody should communicate metals and
metals and non-metals.
Non-metals. That is, you should remember. So now, on the basis of their properties, all the elements, totally how many elements we have now at present? How many elements we have? 118 elements. Understand, all of you? So in this, around 102 elements are naturally existed elements, and remaining all artificial elements which has been prepared in our chemical laboratory. So out of these 180 elements, on the basis of their similarities as well as differences, they have been divided into two main groups. So what is that main groups, Ra? Anybody? What is that main two groups? One is metal and the
metals and non-metals.
second one is called as non-metals. So if you observe here, both metals as well as non-metals are used in our daily life. Is it yes or no? Can anybody say any one example of metal which are using in our daily life? Jesse, Varshini? Copper. Very good. So example I will say. So both we are using in our daily life. So example copper. Very nice. Super. So any non-metal which we are using in our daily life, because both metals and non-metals we are using in our daily life. So any one example of non-metal which we are using in our daily life?
Carbon dioxide.
Carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide we are using for, plants are using for photosynthesis reaction. But this is not an element. This is the compound. Is it yes or no, Varshini? This is the compound. I am asking non-metal, not the compound. So just non-metal. Anybody? Please respond me. Akshaya, everybody should respond. That is what I am saying. What?
Helium.
Helium gas. Okay, very good. We are using. You are not breathing oxygen. Oxygen is a not metal. Oxygen is a non-metal or not? Yes, respond me. Oxygen is a metal or not? Pranav, very good. Graphite. Yes or no? So oxygen is a non-metal which we are using. Everybody, all the living organisms in this world, they will consume the oxygen. That is why we can say oxygen is one of the most non-metal, predominant non-metal in the earth. So that is what you should remember. So like that, all these metals and non-metals we are using in our daily life for different purposes. And you can see the large number of compounds. As we know that, what do you mean by compound, guys? Anybody? What do you mean by compound? I want to know that. Chemistry class 9th you have been studied.
Mixture of two or more elements.
So the different atoms of different elements will combine in a fixed ratio. What is that? Will combine in a fixed ratio, chemically fixed ratio, chemically, then that is called as what? What is that called as? Chemically, that is called as compound. Means chemical bond will form. That is, you should remember. So new bonds, old bonds will break and new bonds will form in the compound. So compound means what you should remember? Different elements. Understanding? Different atoms of what? Different atoms of different element. Different atoms of different elements combine. How they will combine, Ra? They will combine chemically. That is called as compound. Understand? So if you observe here, a very, very large number of compounds will form. Understanding? By using these metals and non-metals. So metals and metals also will combine. Usually metals and metals won't be possible. We will study that. So by using these metals and non-metals will form a large, huge number of compounds. So before we'll go further and give the definitions of these metals and non-metals, we should know like a few terms which is like in the sense of malleable, ductile, and brittle in nature. So what do you mean by? So we want to study what is metals and what is non-metals and all. We must know the meaning of these three terms first. Everybody should know and everybody should understand the meaning of these three terms. And these three terms are not new to you guys. That is only all you must say the meaning of this one. That is the first one is called as malleable. Anybody can say what do you mean by malleable in nature? And same way, you must know the nature meaning of ductile, and also you must know the meaning of brittle in nature. So brittle, can you able to describe anybody what do you mean by malleable in nature?
Sir, ability to draw into thin sheets is malleable.
Yes. Very good.
Ability to
Very good,
draw
Nitika.
into wires
So,
ductile.
if you hammer with the, understand, malleable means can be beaten with a, understand, can be beaten with a water, can be beaten with a hammer to form what? Thin sheet. That is you should remember. Can be beaten with a hammer into what? Hammer to form what, guys? Respond me. To form thin sheets. Thin sheets is called as malleable in nature. Same way next. But you should remember here the one most important keyword, without breaking. What is that? Without breaking. That is the most important word. So please try to call your friends here. Next, ductile in nature. Ductile in nature, if you'll observe, what do you mean by ductile in nature?
Ability to draw into wires.
Yeah, ability to draw into wires. Just a minute, I think group somebody missing the login ID. Anybody can forward the login ID, same thing?
Sir, wire means like copper, sir.
Yes, copper wires, aluminum wires, like that. Yeah, very good, Bhumika. Thank you, Bhumika. Enough, one forward. Okay. So, ductile in nature. What do you mean by ductile, anybody? Again, the same thing. Ductile means which can be stretched. Remember that. Which can be stretched, like rubber band. If you are stretching, understand, which can be stretched. S-T-R-E-T-C-H-E-D. Stretched, or we can say drawn. What we can call stretched, also we can call what? Stretched to form a thin wires. To form thin wires is called as ductile in nature. What we should call? Ductile in nature. Do you understand, Karthikeyan? Malleable means like suppose bottle, copper bottle. Have you seen the copper bottle? Yes or no? Yeah, like that. That is what you should remember. Like thin sheets in the sense of like a paper they will make. Understand? Like a foil, aluminum foil. Have you seen the aluminum foil packing?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that is called as malleable in nature. Do you understand? Now, ductile means we are stretching into thin wires, like these wires we are making. That is called as ductile in nature. Are you clear? Now, what do you mean by brittle in nature? Here also you should remember. Here also without breaking. What is that? Respond me. Without breaking. Understand? Now, what do you mean by brittle in nature? Anybody? If you are hitting with a hammer, what is happening, guys? What is the hammer? What do you mean by brittle in nature? Anybody? Akil Arfan, Bhumika, Varshini, please respond me, Pranav.
Sir, when an element breaks into pieces when hammered.
Which means breaks into pieces. Please note it down. Which means breaks into pieces. Understand, Pieces on hammering. Or if you are doing stretching also. So that is what we should call it as brittle in nature. Do you understand, guys? Easily can break into pieces. So keep this all these 3 points in mind. Now we will write the definitions of metals and non-metals based upon these 3 points. That is what the 3 words. What is the 3 words? Malleable, ductile, and brittle in nature. Physical properties are not new to you, but chemical properties are most important properties and most important chapter in every time. Like before corona and after corona also, at most important chapter in chemistry, and having a possibility to ask more case study questions from metals and non-metals only, and reasoned assertion also. So be careful and listen very, very carefully. Note down each and every point. So I hope you understand what is malleable, what is ductile, and what is the brittle in nature. Is it yes, guys? Yes or no? Now, if you understand this, then we are going to study the first category of elements. What is the first category? What is the first main category? Respond me. That is called as metals. So please, all of you keep heading metals. Is it okay, guys? So now, from this you tell me, I have taught you the 3 words. Based upon the 3 words, let me see who will say what is the properties of metals. Anybody? What is the properties of metals? Respond me.
Sir, metal can be
3 words I have taught you, correct? Respond me. Based upon that, you tell me. Nobody? So 3 words I said. One is malleable, one is ductile in nature, one is brittle in nature. So now you can see here, metals are the elements which are conduct heat and electricity and are malleable and ductile in nature. They are not brittle in nature. They are what? Malleable and ductile in nature. So remember, whatever the element given to you, if it is a good conductor of heat and electricity, and if it is a understanding malleable in nature, if it is a ductile in nature, then you have to remember that is called as what? What we should call, guys? Metals. Sir, then is there any exemption? Yes, we have an exemption. That exemption I will teach you. Remember that. So metals means what, guys? You should remember they are the elements that what? They are the elements that which will conduct heat and what? Heat and electricity, and as well as they are malleable in nature, malleable and ductile. So please, all of you, write the definition of metals. Definition of metals. What is the definition of metals? What is the definition of metals?
Conduct heat and electricity are malleable and ductile.
electricity or
Right. Metals are the elements. Metals are the elements. Metals are the elements. Metals are the elements that conduct heat and electricity. That conduct heat and electricity. That conduct heat and electricity. Heat and electricity, comma, and are malleable and ductile in nature. And are malleable and ductile in nature. Malleable and ductile in nature. Malleable and ductile in nature. Now, also you people know that these metals are what? Metals are lustrous in nature. What is that? These are
Lustrous.
lustrous in nature. What do you mean by lustrous? Anybody?
Shining nature.
Yes.
Shining nature.
shiny appearance.
Nature
Shiny appearances.
in the sense of they have a shiny surface. What is that? shiny surface. Understand, Ra? And also you can take, they are hard in nature, they are strong in nature, they are understanding heavy means in the sense of mass is more, density is more, and as well as their main thing, they are sonorous in nature. Understand, Ra? What do you mean by sonorous? Anybody? What do you mean by sonorous?
It produces sounds.
Yes. They used to produce
Sound.
what? They used to produce
Sound.
a ringing sound when they will be hit by any hard metal, hard surface, or they will be struck. So that is what you should.
What, sir?
Yeah. So which make like a bell, which make ringing sound. What is that? Ring. Ringing sound when stuck. When struck, S-T-R-U-C-K, struck, we can say. So now if you'll observe, any examples of this one, anybody can say, any examples of metals? So many metals I have taught you, even normally also. Can you say the examples of metals? Anybody, please? What is
Iron,
non-metal?
copper, zinc,
Very good.
aluminum,
Copper, silver, gold,
aluminum,
yeah, aluminium. Respond me. Aluminium,
zinc,
aluminium, tin, very good. Metals example you can say lead, mercury, but
zinc, sir.
mercury is a liquid metal, so that is exceptional case. So these all the examples of what? Metals only. Sodium, understand? Potassium, sodium, potassium,
Sir, magnesium.
calcium, and magnesium. So like that we can say so many metals, because in our periodic table most of them are metals only. So that is why we can say a lot of examples of metals. So you can observe here, this all the things are examples of metals. Definitely they have properties of metals. Understand that? Some exceptional case will be all there. So if you see, a majority of the known elements are what? Majority of the known elements are what? Metals or non-metals? Around 180 elements we know
Metals.
that. Majority of metals are, understanding, majority of elements are, majority of known elements. Majority of elements are what? Elements are metals only. So in this metals also, what majority of metals are what? What is the state of them? Solid, liquid or gas? Solid, liquid or gas? So
Solid.
metals are solid in nature, and the only one metal till now, the only one metal which is in liquid state, that is mercury. Now, is there any gaseous state? Is there any gaseous state? That is what I am asking. No gaseous state. What is that? No gaseous metals are present. Only metals are present in two states. What is that, guys? Solid state and liquid.
Solid and liquid.
That is also. Till now, the only one metal which is present liquid state at room temperature. That is what we can say. What is that? Mercury. So soon,
Mercury.
around 7 elements like gallium, cesium, and all. They are having a very, very low boiling point. So they are also going to get into liquid state. Understanding? Their temperature means slightly, if the room temperature is slightly increases also, that temperatures, they will come to the liquid state. So around 7 elements are soon they are going to come into the liquid state, 7 metals. But till now, at room temperature, the only metal which will be in liquid state, what is that? That is mercury. Understand, Ram? So now if you observe, most of the metals also, we can say what? They are in solid state, except mercury, which is the only liquid metal. Understand, Ra? Mercury is the only liquid metal. So now you can see, during chemical reactions, metals can form which ions? Anybody can say positive or negative ions? This is not new concept to you. So during chemical reactions, this is the most important thing. So during chemical reactions, metals will form positive or negative ions. Anybody? Metals, respond me. What is happening? During chemical reaction, metals will form. Ashika, can you say? Metals will form? They will form positive ions. What is that? positive ions. Understand, Ra? Because they will lose the electrons or form the electrons. Nitinath, they will lose the electrons or form the electrons. Respond me. They will lose the electrons. Understanding? They will losing. By losing electrons, they will turn into what, guys? They will turn into positive. Positive ions. By losing electrons, always they will turn into positive. By gaining means what will come? Gaining means negative will come. Remember. So, based upon this observation only, this is the most important property of metals. Understand, Ra? So, based upon this observation only, we can write the another definition of metals. So, till now we have studied metals means. What is the definition of metals? Till now you people studied. Metals means what? Metals are, here only you should study. What is that metals means? Respond me. They can conduct heat and electricity. Next, they are malleable and ductile in nature. So they are lustrous, they are hard, they are strong, they are heavy and sonorous in nature. Now, that is what a physical definition of metals. Now, we learned that the important properties of metal, that is, during chemical reaction, metals, they will lose, by losing electrons, they will turn into positive ions. Now, based upon this, now, let me see, Aravind can say the definition of, Jesse, or else Aravind, anybody can say the new definition of metals. Please respond me. This is
My voice is breaking.
losing
Your
electrons.
voice is breaking.
My voice is breaking.
So now clear, sir.
Now also?
Yes, sir, now it is clear, sir.
Okay. So now based upon the new definition, based upon the new thing, can you able to say what is the new definition of metals and non-metals? Please respond. Anybody? Based upon the losing properties. Respond me, Arvind, Bhumika. Right. Metals are the elements. Metals are the elements. Metals are the elements. One exemption is there in metal activity series. Who is that element? Can you say? Even though it is a non-metal, it is used to learn. What is that? Some exemptional metal. Exemptional element. Anybody? Padmavasini?
Sir, carbon.
Amma, that is not. Carbon will never form positive. One and only element. Metal activity series. A non-metal.
Hydrogen.
Hydrogen. That is it. Hydrogen, no carbon. Understand? Metals are the elements except hydrogen. Hydrogen is a what? Metal or non-metal? Non-metal. Understand, Ra? That is. So metals are the elements except hydrogen which form what ions, Ra? Dina is not there. Arya, can you answer? What ions? Positive ions. By what? By losing electrons or gaining electrons?
Losing electrons.
By losing electrons. Losing also we can call another name. What is that called as? Donating. Very good. Donating electrons. If you are not involving in class, we are not going to benefit anything. Remember that. Now, for example, anybody can say the example. For example, let me take aluminium. So, what is the symbol of aluminium, Ra? AL. Yes or no?
AL.
Respond me. So now, aluminium, try to remember first two chapters and tell me, aluminium is a metal which forms positive charge. Is it yes or no? And aluminium is having a capacity of losing how many electrons, guys? Anybody? How many electrons? So, it will form a positive ion. Positive ion by losing how many electrons? Anybody can say? Aluminium.
So 3 electrons.
3, sir.
3, sir.
3.
Everybody respond me, Arya. So, aluminium will form positive ion by losing how many electrons, Ra? By losing
3 electrons.
3 electrons, and it will turn into aluminium. 3 electrons lost, so that it will become what? Aluminium 3 plus. Aluminium 3 plus. So, what is the difference between Al and Al3 plus? Anybody can say? What is the difference between Al and Al3 plus? Bhumika, Akshaya, Jesse, Ashika. What is the difference between
Al3 plus is an ion.
What? Al is an
Ion. It's a metal.
It is an
Element.
we should not say yeah, element. It is an what? It is an atom. Understand, Ra? But this is what? This is an ion. Do you
Ion.
understand, guys? So without losing or gaining electrons is called as atom, and with losing or with gaining electrons, it is called as ion. That is the difference between them. That is you should remember. So if you'll observe here, this aluminium is actually a atom. By losing 3 electrons, it will turns into what? Aluminium 3 plus. So if you'll observe here, these metals which are donating, remember, not only this one, any kind of element which is donating electrons or losing electrons, by losing electrons, which is acquired a positive charge. What we should call, guys? Positive charge. They are called as, another name of this one. Understand, guys? We can say electropositive elements. What we should call, Ra?
Electropositive element.
We used to call it as electropositive elements, the most important thing. So electropositive elements, what do you mean by electropositive elements? Anybody? Pranav, Arya? They can form positive ions. They can form positive ions by what? By losing or gaining electrons. Positive ions, right?
Losing electron.
Electrons. That is, you should remember, by losing electrons, they will form positive ions. Yes or no? Respond me, everybody.
Yes, sir.
So this is what we should call it as metals. So metals, now three definitions we can study. One is what? Physical property. Second one, by based upon the losing electrons, and this losing electrons also we can call it as what, Ra? Also we can call it as
Donating electrons.
Donating electrons, sir.
So now you can see metals are widely used in our daily life. Understand, Ra? So for a large number of purposes, if we'll take for example, mainly in our kitchen, if we'll go. So where we are using metals, basically tell me now, presently if we'll go the modern kitchens, where we are using cooking utensils, where we are using cooking utensils. So cooking utensils, everything is what, Ra? Metals only. Correct or not, guys? Respond me. So cooking utensils. Next one, electric fans. You tell me what is the uses of it? Electric fans, sewing machines. You can take daily examples. Tell me. Suppose, for example, you can take doctors. Doctors also they will use metals. Where? Anybody? Doctors they will use metals. Can anybody say? Where? Doctors they will use
Temperature checking, sir.
Sir, in their stethoscope.
scissors and all. Yes or no? Scissors and
Thermometer.
what? Metals only, correct? Nobody will say.